Got locked in now, laser focus.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Locked In.
They're my underrated team because I do think they're the only 8 seed I think that can even give the Lakers a run for their money.
My name is Megan Holden.
They're being way too optimistic. I think that I'll be happy. I think we'd be lucky if we get a full season.
And I'm Sam Rodriguez. I gotta
Alright.
bring out the big guns today.
And we're here bringing you the latest NFL and NBA news and the hottest debates.
They seem like they're getting most of their players right now, and I feel like they can upset a couple teams, definitely in the playoffs.
We got an interesting show for you guys. We're covering the Lou Williams situation of when he left the bubble and if the bubble will hold up. We're also discussing how COVID is impacting the NFL season and predicting what the season will look like.
So, what are you guys predicting? Like, how many games do you think it's going to be this season?
And lastly, we're talking about the most overrated and underrated NBA teams in the bubble going into the playoffs.
Like, there's these teams they're gonna have to get to in order to even play the Lakers, which I don't see them being able to do.
All right, now it's Sam for the NBA underrated news.
All right, so we've been hearing a lot about Zach LaVine going places. Now the Brooklyn Nets are interested in him. They said if their plan to get Giannis doesn't work, they're gonna aim to get Zach LaVine or Bradley Beal. I don't know if that pairing will work. Kyrie, KD, Bradley Beal, or Zach LaVine. But we'll see.
He's a good number 3 guy, but I mean, if I'm Zach LaVine, I don't want to go to either New York team. I feel like it's a mess. He's best being the Bulls' number 1 option for now.
And then Anthony Davis, in a practice, people have been wondering where he's going to go in the offseason, screamed purple till the day I die, which I personally am very excited about.
I think he just confirmed that the Bulls are going to change their uniform colors. I'm trying to think who else is purple to make me feel better. I'm like, who else?
The Kings, but
yeah. Ooh.
But it's purple and gold.
Okay, go ahead.
We got the Lou Will leaving the bubble because of his grandfather's death, but going to a strip club to get wings.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We definitely have a lot to say about that.
Then you got Sabonis for the Pacers is out. He left the bubble, foot injury. Thought he was going to be good, but he's not going to be good. So they're down again. Players just going left and right. And then finally, no one really expect this news. Kevin Love is in the trade market right now. The 3 teams interested are the Trailblazers, the Nets, and the Suns.
I expected that, but I've been expecting this 2 seasons after like LeBron left. Like, come on, guys, what are you guys holding on to him for?
I'd say out of those 3 teams, the Trailblazers would be the best fit.
Yeah. They need another star over there.
And now on to Megan with the under the radar NFL news.
So for the NFL under the radar news this week, we have teams have to cut back to 80 players going to training camp instead of 90. So some of them are making the cuts towards the players on the back end of the roster. Also, NFL created a new reserve list for players who either tested positive for COVID-19 or came in contact with someone that had COVID-19, tested positive for COVID-19. The only thing is they cannot release information on why they're going to be on reserve list if they either was in contact or tested themselves, and they have to do it right away. On a positive note of that is that they can promote players from the practice squad, and they can put them back without waiving them.
Yeah, they're going to find some stars in the rough, like diamonds in the rough over there.
Ravens tight end Hayden Hurst opens up about his depression and how 4 years ago he almost committed suicide. Right now he's speaking out to help others who are in need. Free agent wide receiver AB back in the news. So he went from announcing his retirement 1 week to put on an Instagram post asking the NFL to hurry up with the investigation so he can come back to play.
Like you said before, we should just make a segment every week about AB.
Yeah, and I feel like he doesn't know what he wants, and he gets discouraged because after last season, not many teams want him, and he kind of makes the retirement thing, but then he wants to play, he wants to be competitive. I think he should make sure he's completely healthy and everything first and get everything lined up before he even thinks about going to the NFL.
Yeah, well, if he's complaining about not getting on a team, look at your actions.
Former Atlanta running back Devontae Freeman hires a new agent as he hopes to sign with any team soon. Before he was being more restricted and only looking for playoff teams. Now, later on in the offseason, he still doesn't have a job. So he's anyone right now that would take him. I think a good the contract he's looking for, he's willing to go. Before the big trade of Jamal Adams, he has stated that he doesn't know if Adam Gase, the Jets head coach, is the right leader for the team. He said he doesn't have relationships with any of the players, and he lets other like coaching staff deal with the locker room problems. With the decline in revenue next year for the NFL, cap can't go. They say the cap they don't want lower than 175 million. It was supposed to be at 198.2 million, but what they plan to do is, instead of all the loss for next season, they're gonna spread it out between 2022 to 2024, and 2020 will be a no pay, no play season. And if the season stops, all salaries and incentives will go away.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do right now. They weren't even leaning towards playing, so this is like a blessing in disguise.
I know, but it's like, dang, if you get sick, you can't even. I mean, some jobs are even better than that, but I mean, I get it. If you don't show up to work, you don't get paid, but I don't know. I think it's pretty.
With everything going on right now, I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, we'll get to it when we talk about the COVID-19. All right, so lastly, NFL players will be invited to post names and initials of the victims of police violence and systematic racism on their helmets for the season.
Yeah, the NFL needs to take that step. NBA is already doing it, but
yeah,
that's because Adam Silver's leagues ahead of Roger Goodell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think that they're starting to take off from the NBA's playbook and starting to push forward. Today we have a special guest, upcoming sports journalist, Joshua Mayoza.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show today. I'm happy to have a fellow Celtics fan on the show.
I gotta bring out the big guns today.
So we usually ask our fans and our guests a trivia question. So today's trivia question is, which team sent four players to the 2015 NBA All-Star Game? I'll give you options because it's a tough one. You have the Clippers, you have the Celtics, the Hawks, and you have Bulls.
Believe it's the Hawks with Horford, Teague, and I'm missing the other two. But I think it's them, Joe Johnson, somebody else.
So who do you think it is?
Be different. I'm gonna go with the Bulls.
The Bulls?
Yeah.
Well, Justin was right. It is Atlanta Hawks. It's Al Horford, Kyle Korver, Paul Millsap, and Jeff Teague. That was impressive. Our first topic of the day is going to be Lou Williams and the NBA bubble. So, late last week, Clippers guard left the bubble for personal matters. His grandfather had died. But on the night, it's not sure if it's clear if it's the night before or the night of the grandfather's funeral, he went to an Atlanta strip club with rapper Jack Harlow. We found out about this because Harlow posted a picture, which he tried to deny, saying he posted it because he missed him. It's an old picture. Fans called that out because they saw the mask, a new mask, and a new haircut. So NBA and obviously Doc Rivers were not happy. Lou Williams since returned to the bubble, but there's an NBA investigation. They made him quarantine for 10 days. He will miss the first two seeding games. Lou's excuse is that he just wanted to pick up food. It's one of his favorite food places, and that he didn't stay for long. And he did say, to be fair to him, he did say that was like his favorite food place before, but I mean, come on, you're about to go to a bubble. Why are you going to a strip club? You know you have to be quarantined. Yeah. You know you have to stay away from COVID. I feel like the strip club's like the worst place to be for sanitary, like to be sanitary. Yeah. So how do you guys feel about Lou's excuse? Do you feel like he should be suspended? Do you feel like he should have any penalties? Do you think NBA should do anything? Because I feel like they have to set example so other players don't follow suit.
From a Lakers fan standpoint, I'm very happy that Lou Will did what he did. I'm very ecstatic that he was stupid enough to get caught, first off. He was selfish enough to even go there. And then third, lie about it. When you're wearing proof of what you wore in the bubble. I feel like if he would have admitted to it, he wouldn't have had the repercussions that are coming to him. It would have been a lot easier to deal with. Everyone would have been like, okay, we'll forgive you, but we're going to go through these certain things. Now, he's going to get penalized even for going to it and then lying about it. And if you're there to pick up wings, you don't got to sit down at like a booth and hang out with your friends there. I just think he's completely in the wrong for this, but I'm not upset about it because if it takes away from the Clippers' depth, it takes away from their depth.
All right, so completely unbiased take there.
Completely unbiased.
So for me, honestly, I feel like when I first heard about it, I thought Lou was just using a personal excuse. I didn't know what it was, to just go out and party. So when I first heard about this, I'm like, don't even let him back in the bubble. But given that his grandfather died, some people are using excuse. I guess people think differently. He wanted to have some fun, but still it was irresponsible for him. He put himself in a dangerous situation and lied about it. Like when he got caught up, if you're really like sorry about something, I don't think you're gonna lie about it. fact that he lied about it, saying, "Oh, it was an old picture," like you basically agree with what Jack said. And then he was saying he was just there, like just kid picking up food. You went to a strip club to pick up food, and then you sat down with your friend who was having a beer, and then your friends promote it on like Snapchat and stuff, and you just doing all that just to pick up food. I'm not buying that excuse either. I think the NFL, I know they're holding them out for 10-day quarantine. Holding them out for 2 regular season games. You want to call it regular season games or seeding games? I think they should do playoff games because that's more meaningful. I don't think these players really care too much about the seeding game. Because right now, what it is you're setting an example that other players can do this. Like if other players can go out, say it's personal reasons in quarantine. Like James Harden can miss every week. Like you just gave James Harden permission. Like if you don't, I feel like do something. The bubble is really no point of it because then players will keep leaving and coming back, and just do the couple days quarantine. I feel like you've got to have some type of punishment.
I kind of agree on both, even maybe a little stronger. Suspending them for the playoff games, I wouldn't be against it, but I definitely think if you got an extra game or two, because not for nothing, you only got the traditional punishment that they're supposed to get when they come back in the bubble, which is the 10-day quarantine. And yeah, I think he should be made an example of. And I do think maybe not for the Clippers, but the play-on games are going to mean a lot for seeding purposes. But at the end of the day, which is why I think his decision ultimately is foolish, because these guys, they've had time off. They only have 8 games. They have to get in the swing of things. The Clippers have had a lot of injuries. They need to get playing with each other. The first game's against the Lakers, you know what I mean? Where you can sit there and build confidence and yada yada against them. And he's just going to miss it. And for what? He's an older player. And I just think he would get it. You know what I mean? And at the same time, the NBA, they have a bubble. And like you see with baseball, with the Marlins, in football and stuff like that, like a lot of these things, they don't have as good of a system as the NBA. The NBA has a really good system right now. And like you knew what you signed up for. So like Lou's 33, I believe. You know, you've been there a long time. You've been in the league for like 15 years now, whatever. If you want to do your own thing and, you know what I mean, go get wings or whatever, then don't come to the bubble at all. When you made the decision to sign up for the bubble, Zion's 19 and he left for funeral and came back without that. So Lou shouldn't have any excuse, especially being on a championship contender on top of it.
So we're going to be discussing how the NFL is going to be affected during COVID. The NFLPA finally agreed on a deal with the NFL to come back. They're not going to have any preseason games. They're going to have mandatory days off, 1 day off every 7 days. They're going to keep getting tested. They're going to have 4 tests within the first 4 days. They finally set on an agreement, which is going to work better, but we're going to see how it's all going to play into effect when the season actually starts.
It's interesting because I think that actually how I read it was NFL, they're letting teams decide if they're going to let fans in. And some teams like Giants and Jets, I mean, the governor set it down, like they're not having fans. But teams like Atlanta Falcons say that they're like saying they'd let 10,000 people in because they have such a huge stadium. But 10,000 people, no matter how many space you have, still a lot of people are at one place. Like you still got lines, you still got people touching stuff. I feel like they should have no fans at all. One thing I feel like is kind of good how they do no preseason. It's gonna be scary because it's more injury prone and not like guys at the end of the roster really compete too much for a spot with no preseason game. But at the same time, I mean, this is not an ideal situation for anybody. It's going to be a lose-lose situation either way. And you got to protect the players. A lot of players were upset with the NFL because they weren't really following too much guidelines or taking recommendations because they we want to play, but you have to protect us. And I think the NFL has to do a better job with that. They're being way too optimistic. I think that I'll be happy. I think we'll be lucky if we get a full season. That the season might be cut short and we might go straight to playoffs. Or they might do what the NBA did and take a little break if they have an outbreak. So I feel like as soon as they get an outbreak and someone gets really sick or ill in the hospital for it, the NFL will shut down. One thing I don't agree with, though, that I do not get is that the players can't exchange jerseys after games. Like, it's a contact sport. You're tackling each other throughout the whole thing, and you can't really exchange. So that's a little too much to me. I feel like some things they're not taking it seriously enough, and other things are necessary. Cut to 80 players. 10 players, I mean, 10 players less, I guess, yeah, that helped. But I'm not even sure if 80 players, maybe cut it down to the original, the 75, have another cut. And then don't even have the inactives come to the game. I think there's gonna be a lot of changes this season, and you just gotta minimize the people that's in the stadium in general.
I agree with a lot of what she says. Football is going to be tough. You see what's happening right now with baseball, the Marlins this morning. I just wonder, because it's not basketball, they don't have a bubble. I get that they're going to be testing a lot, but even with the NFL, I don't know if I heard they might let off their testing if it dips under 5%, which I already don't think is a good mentality to have. I think you just need to be strict on it 24/7. The size of their rosters, how they have to travel, they're not going to be in one area. The sport in general with all the contact. I hope they can try to cross the I's and, cross their T's and dot the I's as much as they want. That's going to be the toughest sport because it's just the whole nature. It's just going to be the toughest sport with all the travel and everything, the coaches, and the active, just everything. It's just so big, the facilities. It's going to be tough. I don't know. It'd be, like you said, it'd be best case scenario to get through the full season.
Honestly, I don't know if it's going to work because the NBA, they have the bubble. They're stuck there. NFL, they can do whatever they want. The players can go out if they want at night when they're in different cities. There's no restrictions. Roger Goodell should be taking this a lot more seriously than what he is. Because you got people like Adam Silver taking all these crazy precautions that are for the good. And Roger Goodell's kind of just sitting there like, hey, we're going to make some money. Let's play. Like, he's not taking it into effect. But one thing that I do agree with that they're doing is the no pay, no play. So if the teams don't, say they play 4 games, you get paid for the 4 games, and you don't play the rest of the season, you don't get paid for the rest of the season. I think it's harsh, but with right now, the times, there's not a lot of money coming in. So you have to do what you have to do to make it durable so you can have NFL season next year and the year after that and continue to have guys play.
I think what they're going to do, like we see a bunch of places, like even my school does this, they're probably going to have them sign a contract, or they should have them sign a contract saying you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, you're going to be careful, when you travel, they're going to report it, you got to get testing, routinely, wear a mask, social distance, don't put yourself in dangerous situations. They're probably going to have players sign a contract. So I think that will limit the risk. I think some players will take it seriously, especially if you put penalties as a question. But like Joshua was saying, this is a contact sport. It's a huge sport. You travel all over. They can't really create a bubble for NFL. So what are you guys predicting? Like how many games do you think it's going to be this season? Like I think they should just cut it to 10 and be happy if they even make it 10 and just go straight to the postseason. I don't think they should try to even post the full 16.
He's talking about there's no restrictions like in the NBA. So if football team A goes out the night before on Saturday night and they go to that one spot that's just for whatever happens is infested with COVID that day and they all get it, like that can accelerate it, you know what I mean? Like unbelievable. Like that's almost, I wonder what happened with the Marlins too, because it looks like it's just coming out of nowhere. Yeah, one person got it. It was a bad batch. Now it's going everywhere within that. So that's going to be the key thing. You know what I mean? If they can catch the one person because they legitimately got sick, that's the thing. If you get sick that Saturday night and you go out that Sunday and you play sick, I mean, that I can only imagine how much it can spread in those situations.
Yeah, but players don't even tell them when they have concussions sometimes. Some players just want to play and they don't think about the health. I don't know how this is going to go. And what bothers me most is that NFL had the most time with this. It wasn't like NBA or baseball. Like, it wasn't middle of the season. NFL had months to plan. And it seems like they came out with a bare minimum plan, like kind of like business as usual. Maybe a little adjustments here and there, no Pro Bowl, no preseason, no really much of an off season. But as far as like when a game starts, I don't really see much of a plan.
Yeah, what the NFL did, they weren't proactive. They kind of wanted to sit back and see how everything would pan out. And that's going to end up screwing them overall when the season comes. Because they could have, like you said, if they had months to plan for this. If they would have had a plan set by May, even beginning of June, we would have been able to maybe have more games. I honestly don't see it going past 3. Personally, I don't see it going past 3. Because first off, when they're away games, they should be tested 2 nights before when they arrive in the new city. Before the game, they should be tested with the rapid tests. Then when they return home, they should be tested as well. And then before they leave for a road trip, be tested. It's just little precautions that I don't think the NFL is going to take because, again, it's money. And Roger Goodell is Roger Goodell. I don't see him spending money on something he doesn't deem necessary, but it is right now with the times going on.
Sam has 3 games. I have 10. Joshua, how far do you think it goes?
Put five. I'll go 5.
So going into the NBA playoffs, who do you guys have as the most overrated team and most underrated team?
My most overrated team, I'm gonna start off with the Clippers.
Soccer.
They have we can speak all day about them against the Lakers, but they have to get to the Lakers in order to play them and beat them. Yes, they have a great record against the Lakers, but they have worse records against the Jazz, who they might have to face. They're 1-2 against the Jazz this season. Against the Rockets, they're 2-2. The Rockets have the chance to beat them. The Nuggets, they're 1-2 against. Like, there's these teams they're gonna have to get to in order to even play the Lakers, which I don't see them being able to do. They haven't been able to do it in the regular season. What makes you think now they're gonna be able to? The Nuggets are youthful. They can get through them easily. Now with adding Bol at small forward, I mean, that's kind of a force. Who's going to cover him? You know what I mean? Then Jokic at the point. And then the Rockets, Westbrook and Harden, they can't contain them. They can't. It's been proven throughout the season. So I just think the Clippers are the most overrated because they have teams to get through before they even get to the Lakers. And then my underrated team, I'm going to go with Miami. Miami is a solid team that we've been overlooking throughout the whole season because they're in the East. But they have the talent to beat whoever they have to over there. They've beaten the Bucks before. They've beaten the 76ers. They've beaten the Celtics. But we continue to overlook them because they've been losing these small games against lower-seeded teams. But I think if they're all fully healthy, they have what it takes to get to the NBA Finals, maybe the Eastern Conference Finals, or put up a fight against the Bucks.
So my overrated team, I had a few. One of them was the Rockets that he named. I'm actually going to go with the Sixers, and the reason why is them, but also their seeding. Because you brought up Miami, you brought up the Bucks, you brought up the Celtics. Right now, even the Pacers, they're going to probably have to play one of them 4 teams, and I think all 4 of those teams will probably beat them. As good as the Sixers can be with their home record and whatever, Miami is too versatile. They have too much shooting. They can switch off. They might not have a real big like Joel Embiid, but Bam Adebayo can do his thing. The size the Bucks can clearly match on. And even Indiana, they got Sabonis. They got Miles Turner. They got, I believe, Oladipo's still playing. So they got some players over there. And I don't know. With Ben Simmons at the 4, I think they're the most overrated team. As far as underrated goes, Portland's an interesting one because they'll probably be the 8th seed. And they're going to play the Lakers. But if I have to be honest, what team in the West matches up really good against the Lakers, especially with what's going on with the Lakers, it's Portland. They don't have the guard support. I don't know who they're throwing on CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard right now. And not for nothing with Nurkic, Hassan Whiteside, Carmelo, Zach Collins. They got some bigger stretch fours to throw on Dwight, AD, to match some of their size. At the end of the day, the Lakers are probably going to beat them, but I will say they're my underrated team because I do think they're the only 8 seed I think that can even give the Lakers a run for their money. I think they can legit match up really well against the Lakers.
I was actually going to say Portland's the most overrated because of the record is 10-21 with teams over 500. So they had been underperforming all season, even though Damian Lillard has been great all season. The team itself has been underperforming. Now, I agree and disagree with both of you guys for one. So my most overrated team is the 76ers, like Joshua said. So they're against like above 500 teams. They're 12-18. They're not really great. Like you said, they're not great on the road, and they're in Florida right now. And they didn't have the things. They seem like they didn't have the team together, and now they're just changing it in season, and they look like going to the playoffs, just changing it, thinking things are gonna work. You got a guy that was mostly spent most of the year on G League, starting your point guard. I mean, I get he had a good 10 games, but that's a small sample size, and we're about to go to the playoff. I mean, the level raises right there. So the fact that they couldn't really figure it out before, and they're just trying to move things now, trying to figure out, I feel like it's gonna backfire in their face. I don't think that they weren't having a great season to begin with. They were the only reason why they're like even there because they did well against poor teams, but did horrible against teams that were actually in the playoffs. They're a horrible 3-point shooting team, and they're not really great at their free throws either. Now, So that's something I feel like you're gonna need. The best shooter is Harris, but he's a subpar 3-point shooter. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But I think they're the most overrated right now. People having them under the Bucks. Some people have them under the Bucks or beating the Bucks or coming close to Toronto. I don't even think they're above the next team I'm about to mention as the most underrated team is the Miami Heat. They actually have a record of 14-10 for teams over 500. They're number 1 3-point percentage, and number 5 free throws made, and they're at home. Like they're used to this. Everyone, people are trying to get used to the climate. People are trying to get used. Some players are trying to get used to the time zone, and Miami players are just stay like this is a usual day. And I understand they're not gonna have crowd noise and stuff, but there's really nothing they have to get used to. It's just them, playing ball. I feel like they just have a great team chemistry. They seem like they're getting most of their players right now, and I feel like they can upset a couple teams, definitely in the playoffs.
Miami's good. I like Miami. Jimmy, they just worry me. Their ceiling worries me because I think they've played their best ball, to be honest with you. When they go, like, I hate to be a homer, but, like, I don't fear them when they come against the Celtics. Like, I'll put Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum on Jimmy Butler. They got Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn. They got all these shooters. We have a bunch of wing players to throw out them on the wing. The biggest guy is Bam Adebayo. He's big. He might be a little bigger than Daniel Theis, but he's not Joel Embiid. So, like, I don't think they're going to kill us with the size either. So to sit here and try to scrap with us and wing play and shoot with the Celtics, that's why, like, even the Clippers, I don't think they'll stand a chance against those teams. Like, even like he mentioned Houston, that's why I think Houston would get killed against the Clippers. Because if you're going to go out there and try to wing play it with the Clippers, like, you got to beat the Clippers almost the same way you beat the Celtics. They're just a little bigger. You got to pound us inside, which is why the Lakers had more of a shot, but they lost some of their wing guards to guard some of their wings. Like, you need to be able to guard the perimeter. You're going to beat those guys like inside, unfortunately. You know what I mean? I don't know if Miami can do that. About the Clippers, I think they're a little better than, like, against some of the teams you said they had a losing record on. Like Utah, like Rudy Gobert versus Montrezl Harrell may sound funny. I'll take Montrezl Harrell straight up at the end of their game. He can hit free throws, he can hit shots, he can stretch it out. I think he's too quick for Rudy Gobert. They're going to have to take Rudy Gobert out, and then when you go small with the Clippers, you're not beating them. Houston, I'll be honest with you, I did not know they had a losing record, but I do know this for a fact. The last time they played, they got like 40-pieced by the Clippers, and that's when they ran their 5 small lineup, because it was the first loss they ever got with that lineup was against the Clippers, and the Clippers smoked them prime time. It was like a 40-point game. It was like 87-45 or something like that. It was really bad. I remember they did. So I think they would destroy Houston, but I think Denver is going to be a tough one. Denver would be a tough one. They're big. They're good.
And then, like, do we really trust Russell Westbrook and Harden together in the playoffs? Like, do we really do, like, especially Harden? I mean, it's a different game. He doesn't get all his free throws in the playoffs. He seems like a different player. But I would say this. I would say that I think for the Clippers, I think that it depends, because the whole season they've been having a mentality of waiting for the playoffs. I feel like they're built for the playoffs, but I feel like Celtics did the same thing last season, but probably backfired. I feel like you need that continuity, you need that chemistry, you need to have everyone together. So that's the only reason why I think people can make the argument that the Clippers might be overrated, because it seems like their team's not taken seriously as other teams. But they're definitely built, I feel like, to compete with almost anybody.
Back off that Rocket statement real quick about Russell Westbrook and Harden. They work perfectly together. Russell Westbrook drives in, everyone crashes on him, kick it out. James Harden, 3. That's what he's needed. Chris Paul couldn't be that guy because no one really saw Chris Paul as a threat. Russell Westbrook has that Jordan Mamba mentality. He's going to drive in there. He's going to dunk on you. He's going to do whatever it takes. But he's also an open-minded passer. He's not like a Kyrie who's like, all right, I'm going to do it all myself. Russell Westbrook will give you 15 assists a game if he needs to, while dropping 20 still. And Harden needs that. He drives in, take away pressure from Harden, because mostly it was just him. They were always double teaming him because no one really worried about anyone else in the wing. But now you got to worry about Russell Westbrook. And like you said, the Clippers don't have chemistry. Kawhi sat out maybe 75% of the season, like, for load management. And he's probably going to sit out again through the seeding games. They already talked about it.
So, I mean, it might be different when they're together, but it seemed like both their styles didn't really work well in the playoffs. So we'll see how they work together in the playoffs if they can make it work. Well, that wraps up our show for this week. I want to thank Joshua for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me so much. I
Of course.
loved it. I'll have to come back.
But I want to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in this week. You can follow all our social media accounts in the description below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And anything that you guys want to cover going forward, just let us know in the comments. Thank you guys, and see you next week.
See you guys.